All right, welcome everyone to the second episode of Grimbrook Tonite. Tonight we have Rocco with us. Welcome, Rocky. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. So I guess to just kind of jump right into it in an effort to help our audience get to know you a little bit better, I guess my first question for you is what really got you inspired to be a singer-songwriter?
Yeah. So believe it or not, music wasn't like the only thing I've been doing for like as long as I can remember. For a while it was actually soccer and it was
Okay,
athletics.
nice.
For like 14 years I played soccer and music was always kind of just something that was on the sideline. I was in choir since 4th grade and I had always stuck with it, but at the end of the day, like on weekends I was going to soccer tournaments and 5 days a week was soccer practice. So I never really gave music like a serious like thought or put too much time into it. Probably until around like my senior year of high school.
Okay,
And at that point, I kind of had to make the decision of whether or not I wanted to play soccer in college. And the more and more I was like into the college search, the more that I realized that I didn't think college athletics were really like what was best for me, that I wanted
right,
more time and flexibility to travel, to explore new things, and to also look at music a little bit more closely and put more
sure,
time into it. Which is exactly what I did.
nice.
I ended up at Marist College, and it was my first time like not playing a sport. And with all of that time, I auditioned for an acapella group. I got into the college choirs and all that, and like hit the ground running with music. That December, my dad noticed that I was always picking up his guitar, like when I was home
Okay,
from break, like trying to play it, and I had not picked up a guitar at all until college. And my Christmas stocking in December was a card that said, "Let's go pick out your first guitar."
nice.
So we did that my freshman year of college. And since then, like I just haven't been able to put it down. And that's when the songs started happening and the songwriting started happening. And now like music has kind of become like everything to me, like aside from the academics. If I'm not in a classroom, if I'm not doing academics or studying, I probably have a guitar in my hand writing music or whatever that may be.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can totally appreciate that. I had a similar story in the sense that like grew up an athlete and it wasn't really until I got to college that I had found like more confidence in my music. Now I'm curious, you mentioned your dad's guitar. Did you grow up with your dad like playing guitar constantly in the house? Was that some kind of inspiration for you? Or was it just something he had laying around?
Yeah, honestly, like not really. It's so funny, like and interesting to think about it. But like my dad played guitar probably around my age when he was really young, and as he got older, he kind of just didn't have time for it.
Sure.
Job, kids, all that it happens. But he started picking up a guitar like after like I don't know, I could probably say like 20 something years
Wow.
around the time that I was in college. Um, so it's almost kind of it's kind of interesting. I feel like he reconnected with music and I found my love for music almost at the
Sure.
same time.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it's become like a really great way for us to like spend time together and everything. But it wasn't something that was always in the house. Like honestly, like even me doing like choir and auditioning for region choirs or being in theater in high school, like I was kind of like the most musical one in the house. So it makes it all that much more interesting of like how music ended up becoming like so important to me like in the past few years.
Yeah, it's funny how things like that come full circle eventually. Now,
Yeah.
you even just mentioned a bit ago about joining the choir and getting into the various groups on campus. I know you're a member of Sirens, the acapella group at Marist. Now, how has that kind of influenced your musicianship, like in terms of
Yeah.
creating and whatnot?
Oh my God. I mean, I could probably go on and on, but I mean, I always say, like, at my core, like, I'm such a choir kid. Like, I'm a
Okay.
choir nerd. Like, I was auditioning for the region choirs and the all state choirs and moved in early as a freshman in college for music camp. Like, that was totally like my element when it came to
Right.
music for the longest time. I mean, at the most basic level, being in choir and then being in an a cappella group has taught me so much music theory and so many technical skills that
Right.
I didn't even realize like how lucky I was to have like until like recently and like becoming more acquainted and connected with other like musicians and songwriters. I took music theory my senior year of high school,
Okay.
learned a little bit of piano through that, but learning really basic things like pronunciation and breathing and
Yeah.
phrasing and vowel sounds and just like how sound works. Um, knowing if I'm flat or if I'm sharp, and
Sure.
learning how to read sheet music and to sight read. Like I'm saying like all of like the crazy like technical things that go into making music
Yeah, but it's
sound
valuable.
like it does. Yeah. And I mean, that has been absolutely incredible to have. And I owe all of that to my choir teachers and instructors and conductors that I've had. And acapella too has done the same. There's no instruments, there's no accompaniment there.
Right.
So you need to be able to hold your own part. You need to be able to learn music quickly, work with others, and ultimately know like if something sounds good. Because if it
Yeah, of
doesn't
course.
sound good, there's not really an instrument or anything holding you in check. So yeah, I would not be the musician that I am today without choir and without acapella, without a doubt. It's how I started getting into music in the first place.
That's really cool. And honestly, even a lot of what you said in terms of the technical side of things is like one aspect of music that I wish I had expanded upon when I was younger. Cause like a lot of what I create is just about just like the rawness of it. Like, I mean, I'm not technically trained other than as a like drum kit drummer. So like I'll mess around with the keyboard or a guitar and it's just like me making noise, not so much as like really creating music in that sense. But I guess going off of that, just randomly, do you have a favorite song that you've done with the acapella group?
Oh, that's a good question. If I had to pick, it was actually one of the first solos that I ever got with my acapella group. Um, I auditioned as a like second semester freshman. It was like my first time auditioning, and it was just one verse from a song called "Hard Feelings" by Lorde.
Okay.
Um, and it was the most like it was a very like quiet song, a very sad song, a very slow song, but it was like the first time I ever had a solo in an a cappella group like that. And it's just like really incredible, like to be like a soloist with like, I don't know, at the time, maybe 10, 11, 12, like incredibly talented women like singing behind you and
Yeah.
backing you up. It was like my first time really experiencing that. And I'm sure if I looked back at that solo, I'd be like, oh my God, I don't even
Yeah, of
sound
course.
like that anymore. I
Right.
was so nervous. Like, but I definitely think back to that as like my first song, my first solo. And from there, I've been trying to, sing as many solos and as many songs as I can. So yeah,
Yeah,
that one
which
definitely came to mind first.
now in terms of you mentioning like the volume of how much you're trying to do in terms of output and just writing and singing and whatnot, I've noticed a lot lately in terms of what you've been posting on TikTok and Instagram, and it seems like you're have a steady growth going. Have you found any like particular strategies that have really worked in your favor?
Yeah, TikTok is like a whole new ball game. Like, oh
Right.
my goodness. And the social media end of things is just a whole other aspect to music that
Sure.
is kind of new for me. Like for a while it's been like me in my basement with a guitar, like, and
Right.
that's it. And that's lovely. But there's a lot more to that when you're trying to like reach an audience,
Of
and
course.
especially during a pandemic where pretty much everything relies on a virtual platform for the
Yeah.
time being. Um, I've definitely noticed the way that my content and the way that like my goals and even my songwriting have changed.
Okay.
I think I went from writing like full songs at a time to
Yeah.
writing, quick 60-second songs, quick brainstorming,
Yeah.
things that'll try to get people's attention. And I've noticed that I've been writing less full songs as I have like coming up with a bunch of little ideas and posting them as I go.
Okay.
And there's pros and cons to that. I mean, the pro to that is like I almost consider like social media to be like my own personal like journal. Like it's kind
Okay.
of like documenting like the songwriting process and like the little things that maybe normally like I would never get up on stage and sing like 30 seconds of something that I wrote.
Sure.
But on TikTok I can be like, hey, I just came up with this. Like, what do you think? Like, should I finish it? Should I not? Like, is it bad? I don't know. But I guess the two things that have worked for me the most, and by no means am I a social media guru, like I'm literally figuring it out by the day.
Yeah, sure.
The first thing is definitely connecting to your audience. And that sounds like really basic and like maybe really cliche, but it took me a little while to figure out. Like I realized, my audience, like on TikTok, for example, isn't like a bunch of like college students. Rather, it's very specifically other singer-songwriters who are very
Okay.
much like me.
Sure.
So like when it comes to like wanting to produce content that my followers can connect to, a lot of that has been content and posts that are reaching out to them and like asking them what their experiences has
That's
been,
interesting.
things that they can relate to, of being like, oh God, like I have writer's block. What do I do? Or, you
Right.
know, like sometimes it's really hard to like, you know, feel like you're getting enough followers or enough like an audience like looking at your like music.
Yeah.
I found like when I like really tap into like my experience as just like a young person making music and seeing what happens,
Right.
other people tend to really respond to that, because like that's what my like audience for the most part really is.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to hear the next hit single per se, like
Yeah.
rather they want to know how I'm writing and like how that may affect their writing and how we can learn from each other, which is
Yeah,
really
for sure.
cool.
I never thought of it like that, really. And it sounds
Yeah.
like even your approach makes me think of like even business to business marketing more so than even like business to consumer. Like you're not treating them so much as fans, as more it's like colleagues.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. Like they're not necessarily like my fans. They're,
Right.
you know, I'm supporting them in some sort of way and they're supporting me in some sort of way. And there kind of has to be something like mutually beneficial there. Like
Yeah,
that
for
my
sure.
content is benefiting you, your response or the way we interact with each other is benefiting me. Like that's really like how I've like, I think, started to get to know that app a little bit better. And the second thing I think also really cliche, but also really important, is like sticking to original content. It's really easy to hop on the like the sound or the song that like is trending,
Right.
or you know, the newest TikTok dance, the newest like Instagram trend. Like it's really easy to get wrapped up in that because you think, oh my God, like if I do that, other people are going viral, like I can go viral too.
Right.
um but I don't really think like in the long run that's what's truly beneficial. At the end of the day, like nobody can put something out that's like authentically mine, and
Right.
that's something different that I can offer. And it's not so much about getting that one video to go viral so everybody sees
Yeah.
it. It's about like building a name for yourself, being able to put your personality out there and build connections. And so I admit I got lost in it a little bit too. I'm like, oh God, these TikTok trends, these sounds,
Right.
maybe you have to post X amount of times a day and just get that. And like the most successful things that I posted, the things that have gotten the most views, the best feedback, are the things that I just did because I felt like doing them and they came to me in that moment
Exactly.
and they were like original things that I wrote. So yeah, I guess those are my two big takeaways lately in terms of social media, but it's changing by the day. So I
Of
feel like
course.
if you asked me in a few months, I'd have a different answer.
That's fair. Well, I mean, in terms of going the opposite of talking so much about originals, I mean, you do also, it seems, enjoy doing the covers. Are there any artists that you look to and draw inspiration from?
Yeah, there's like so many. And just like thinking about how many musicians I really looked up to is like crazy and overwhelming. I love playing covers just because I do a lot of live gigs, or at least I have in the past. I mean, a
Sure.
lot of them have been put on pause because
Right.
of COVID. But you know, when it comes to gigging, when you're connecting to a new audience, what does that audience want to hear? They want to hear covers. They want to hear
Yeah.
things they know that they're familiar
Exactly.
with. But I mean, to name a few, obviously for me, like I can't talk about like inspiration without talking about Taylor Swift. Like she's the one I've been listening to since I was like 8 years old on an iPod Nano, like in my room.
Right.
So I mean, I went to her concerts, and I even actually I found a notebook of mine. It was a Taylor Swift notebook from like 2008 with a song I attempted to write.
Nice.
So if that doesn't really speak to like my inspirations and maybe even my 8-year-old subconscious, like I don't really know what does. But also I think there's some new and some up and coming, particularly female songwriters that I'm so inspired by. Julia Michaels is a big one that I
Sure.
tapped into. She's been writing and songwriting for all the big names for years, but just recently started writing for herself and
Wow.
releasing her own music. And I love it. The way she creates rhymes, the way she puts words together that you would never thought would be able to go together, like
Right.
her method and her way of thinking through lyrics and how to make things catchy, like is so interesting. And she's definitely somebody that I know that I draw a lot of my inspiration from in terms of lyric writing and how
Okay.
to write something catchy and how to write something different that can get people's attention, because I feel like
Sure.
she does it so well. She was also one of the last concerts that I've gone to in a while. So holding on to those memories.
I hear you.
I think some other ones, just to name a few, are Sasha Sloan, Kelsey Cutler, Maud Latour, maybe names that are a little bit less familiar, but
Sure.
all names that like I really feel are like up and coming. Also Lorde as well is a huge, huge inspiration of mine. I tend to connect the most and get the most inspiration from female singer-songwriters that have been navigating the industry recently. And they're all doing incredible things or have done incredible things. And so definitely been looking to them, I think, because I see the most of myself in them.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, of those last three before Lord, Chelsea Cutler's the only one I recognize. So I look forward to checking out the other two. Because yeah, Chelsea was on the or is on the same independent record label as Logic and John Bellion, and so like I knew
Yeah.
them, and then that's how I got put onto Chelsea. Then I guess real quick, then jumping back into originals, because now just as a fan, I'm curious. There was a couple of songs that you posted that you had been working on that really caught my ear. So now I'm curious: is there a timeline for when we can expect any kind of official music from you on, say, Spotify or Apple Music or anything like that?
That's a good question, and I wish I had a definite answer. The answer is I'm not sure, but I'm very, very confident and I'm very excited. I think that, I'm going to be graduating this May, which I'm really excited for.
Right.
And once I have a little bit more time on my hands, a few less deadlines, and I'm like able to like really plant myself back at home and focus on like what the next step is for me, I think music is undeniably going to be a part of that.
Awesome.
I would say that, like, fingers crossed, I would love to get some recordings done and completed within the next year. But I also know that there's a lot of challenges there too. With
Right.
recording is audio production and mastering, and like it's a whole new skill set that I'll be learning as I go as well, and trying to like figure out like who I can connect with that can also help me and collaborate with. Like, I think it'll definitely have to be a collaborative effort. But I'm going to say, I hope that like a year from now, I will be able to have said that I have released some of my original music. That is the hope. And I really do look forward to the future in that respect, because I think I'll be able to make it happen.
All right, great. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing it. So I guess that's really all I have for you tonight. I guess definitely as things progress over the next few months and I guess the next year, really, if you have anything new that you want to talk about, we could definitely reconnect like this again. And hopefully at some point in the future, when you have those originals out, we can connect in an effort to promote it and just catch up on what you've done over that course of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope I'll have a lot of things to talk about in the near future. But yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
no problem. And good luck with the rest of the semester and
Thank you.
congratulations on graduating.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.